Hey everybody, welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. I'm Miss Thomas. That's Truffles. We'll see what she's gonna do. But anyway, welcome to my March reading wrap up. If you don't want to hear anything in the ballpark of a spoiler, skip this chapter. Got it. Hey everybody, welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. I'm Miss Thomas. If you're new here and you like hearing about great books, please subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back. Okay, so for my reading wrap up in March, there were some books that I didn't like. There were some good ones, but there were some ones that I didn't like. So I'm gonna start with Tom Lake, which I DNF'd, and I didn't listen to too much of it. It was an audio. I did like that it was narrated by Meryl Streep, and it was Meryl Streep was playing a woman who was a famous actor turned farmer, and she was reflecting on her acting career, telling her daughters about it. But she was just so, I mean, if you've ever listened to Meryl Streep, it was very blasé. It was just very, I don't know. She didn't seem to have a lot of emotion invested in her own story. And so I didn't really invest in the story, and I ended up DNFing that one. The other one, I did finish, but I didn't really like a whole lot, and that was The Friendship Club by Robyn Carr. I usually like Robyn Carr books. They're just nice, fluffy books about women and their friendships and their lives. This one I didn't really get into. I finished it out of respect for Robyn Carr. I usually like her books, so I stuck it out. The Friendship Club is told initially from Marnie's point of view. And Marnie is a woman who runs a cooking show out of her house. She has divorced this guy who had an affair on her, and she starts to find love again with another guy. And then she has this assistant on the cooking show named Ellen, and Ellen, her husband died, and so she was a caregiver of him. He had medical needs. And so she wants to make sure she doesn't end up in that situation again. And so she's reluctant to get involved with other men. But of course, she does find herself having feelings for another guy. And then there's this character that really, I know it's insensitive, but I found her very, very annoying. And her name was Sophia. And Sophia was in an abusive relationship with a guy, and she was just making excuses for him. And, just initially very, didn't want to tell anybody that he was the way he was, and covering up her bruises, and a lot of emotion and self-blame and introspection. And I don't really go for that kind of book. So, of course, eventually Sophia does stand up to the guy. And so I appreciated that. And I think that, for a young girl or a college age girl, it might be a helpful book to read, to see that, there are men out there who prey on women, and how to recognize that and stand up to that. The book does deal with, stalkers and how to deal with stalkers. And Sophia goes to a self-help group, and you learn about stalkers and the emotional tax that can cause on a person, and how difficult that can be. There was a lot of that. And I don't know, I just didn't identify with Sophia. It's not to say that I haven't had difficult relationships before I was married. I just got tired of all of the excuses for the stalker, and the tolerance of the guy when they were dating. And, I just kick him to the curb, girl. Move on. So anyway, The Friendship Club, I finished, but all right, I'm looking through my notes. Then, as you know, I am writing a Bible study. So I spent a lot of time on the Bible study. And for that reason, I didn't read as much. But 8 books is not bad. I have 8 books to tell you about. I told you about the first 2, wasn't terribly impressed. But I really, really love a good William Kent Krueger book. So if you've seen my review for Ordinary Grace by William Kent Krueger, I loved that book a lot. And that was sort of a mystery. It had a little bit of everything. It had some family drama. It had some mystery. It was just a great book. And so I got his latest, which is called Boundary Waters. And Boundary Waters by William Kent Krueger is a mystery. So March is Mystery Madness month. There's a tongue twister. And so I did do some mysteries. If you've seen my review of The Teacher, you know I was really not a fan of that. So fortunately, I did manage to get my hands on a few good mysteries, and Boundary Waters is one of them. Boundary Waters is about a country singer named Shiloh who goes missing, and she is being protected by an Indian who, hides her away when he is tortured and killed because he won't reveal where she is. So everyone's looking for Shiloh, and Shiloh's dad hires Cork, a detective, to go and help find Shiloh. And so Cork is looking for Shiloh, and then they run into these FBI agents who are also looking for Shiloh, and then they run into these mafia people, these guys in the Italian mafia that are also looking for Shiloh. And so all these people are looking for this country singer Shiloh, who has just gone off grid. So while everybody is looking for Shiloh, they encounter this little boy named Lewis. And Lewis is a little boy who knows the Boundary Waters, hence the title Boundary Waters. And, so they're all navigating this difficult territory, and there's water, and they're looking for this woman. And Lewis is telling them stories of Indian folklore as they're looking. So you get a little bit of Indian folklore and a lot of mystery about where did Shiloh go and why are all these different people so interested in finding Shiloh? And you never really know which characters you can trust and which characters you can't, right? Does everybody want to find Shiloh because they care about her, or do they actually want to hurt her? So Boundary Waters was really good, and William Kent Krueger is going to put a little bit of that Indian folklore in there too. So it was a mystery, but there was also some folklore and certainly a lot of beautiful depictions of nature. So William Kent Krueger is always a winner with me. I recommend Boundary Waters. The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I'm embarrassed to say that I listened to the audiobook for The Kiss Curse. It was okay. It was definitely not one I would recommend, especially not to a Christian reader or a Christian listener, because I listened to it on the Libby app. It was just what was available, and The Kiss Curse was about these witches, right? So they're actually modern women who practice witchcraft. And I was looking for something just sort of light and fluffy, something I wouldn't need to take seriously. And definitely The Kiss Curse was that. So The Kiss Curse is largely told from the point of view of this character named Gwen. Gwen is in charge of running the town Graves Glen because is it her sister or her cousin? I don't know. Went out of town somewhere and the mom's out of town. And so Gwen's in charge. And she finds herself in a friendship with these 2 college girls, or is it 3 college girls? And she calls them her baby witches. And they have a lot of spells that go bad. And they accidentally set things on fire and just make a lot of messes. And it's funny and it's light and silly. And then Gwen ends up very frustrated with the new neighbor, this guy who moved in across the street, and his name is Wells Penhallow. And he moves in across the street and he opens up a shop that sells things that are very similar to Gwen's things that she sells in her shop. So they start competing with each other, and they start getting into kind of like a shop war, and who can be more successful as a shop owner in this small town. And so they fall in love because of this kiss curse, where I guess a box fell on them and there was fairy powder or something that made them fall in love. So it was not not a book I would recommend. I was a little put off by the language. There was a lot of the F-bomb, and I thought about DNFing it more than once. I don't really like romance, but it was just very fluffy. And I did keep listening because I liked the baby witches, the college girls that kept getting into little snafus and making mistakes. That was just kind of cute and kind of fun and kind of light. So it was a nice book to listen to while I was cleaning the house or driving to work. And I didn't really want to concentrate on anything, but it's not a book that I would recommend because it's, about witches and they cuss a lot. So, there was a bit of a mystery too. There was this creepy witch that moves into town and, she seems to be up to no good. And so, there's a little bit of a mystery there, but it was okay. Another book that I read that I really, really enjoyed immensely, though, was The Tangled Tale of the Woolgathering Castoffs. And that was a really good one. That I loved the first one. And so as soon as this author, Sharon Mondragon, came out with a sequel, I bought it, and it was like one of those deals where the day it was released, it arrived at my door from Amazon, and I really enjoyed that. And that was a book about these little old ladies that knit, although one, she's kind of the grouchy one, she crochets. And they knit and crochet outside of a memory care unit in like an assisted living community place. And so some of the women live there, but they meet and they go to the section where there's memory care. There's patients with dementia and Alzheimer's. And there's this one guy who comes to visit his wife, and he's always so hurt and upset when he leaves because she doesn't recognize him. And so they start to minister to him and talk with him because, they get together and they knit and crochet prayer shawls and they pray for people. And they want to give these prayer shawls to the people that are coming and going to visit their loved ones in the memory care. And it was just a very sweet book filled with sweet little old ladies. And I just loved it. I'm thinking I might even do another video on Sharon Mondragon because both books I really enjoyed and I highly recommend. And she's sort of a new author. It's not really her career. Like, I guess she was, I think, a military wife and a stay-at-home mom, but then she started writing these books, and I loved the first one. Couldn't wait for the next one. So loved these books about little old ladies who make prayer shawls, and it had some funny things. It had some touching things. It definitely had some faith content, but it's not for people who, if it's too close to your heart, someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. There's some really sad scenes about people with dementia and Alzheimer's and the people that are grieving that loss of, the loved one that they used to know being replaced by someone that doesn't even recognize them. And one of the women, she brings her daughters to visit her mother. And so they're granddaughters. And the one little young girl, she's just a bundle of energy and she's really resilient. But the teenage girl really struggles with her grandmother's memory loss and takes it very much to heart. And it was sad. As a high school teacher, I had trouble reading about that poor teenage girl who was so confused and upset about, which grandmother am I going to get today when I go to visit the memory care unit. So I really liked the book, but trigger warning, it is sad, and it does deal with people who have memory issues. Living Lies by Natalie Waters is the first book in the Harbored Secret series, and therefore I got it for free on Audible. I noticed that the other books are not free. That's a pretty smart move, really, for Audible to give you the first in the series for free, and then if you like it, you'll buy the other ones. And I really might buy the other ones because I very much like this book. And I have to tell you, it was spring break, and so my husband and I and my younger son, he always has the earbuds in though, he's not listening, but my husband and I were listening to this book because I was listening to it. My husband just happened to be around, but it was funny because he got engrossed in the book too. So if it can appeal to me and my husband, it's definitely a winner. So Living Lies is the story of Lane, and she is the daughter of a Southern judge who is a Senate hope. So he's hoping to become a senator. And Lane is struggling with depression. So in the very, very beginning of the book, she's on this bridge and she's thinking about jumping. When this guy shows up, he's on his bicycle and he talks to her, and then she's embarrassed and she starts to think maybe he's a little creepy because she's, out alone in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's a bridge, but it's like there's the woods and everything. So she's a little creeped out. And so she tries to get away from him and she stumbles upon a dead body and she freaks out and starts screaming. And so, of course, the guy comes to the rescue. Well, come to find out, the guy is this new guy in town who is there to be a police detective. And so he's immediately assigned to the case of this girl that they happened upon in the woods. And of course, Lane is, really nervous about this guy because she's thinking, does he know I was going to jump off that bridge? I don't really want him to understand me. I don't want him to know about me because her father is so famous in town and she doesn't want to embarrass her father, and she has some secrets that she doesn't want revealed that her father's kind of holding over her head. So Lane also has this adorable son. She's a widow. Her husband has died. And so she is there with this adorable son, Noah. Noah is Lane's son, and he loves dinosaurs. And he starts to really love Charlie, the police officer that found Lane right before she jumped off the bridge. So, of course, Noah keeps gravitating toward Charlie, and Charlie is interested in Lane. And Lane doesn't want anything to do with him because she just doesn't want to get mixed up in anything. She's grieving the loss of her husband, and she's trying to keep her own secrets. The title, Living Lies. She's living some lies that she doesn't want revealed, and she doesn't want to provoke her father because he's kind of holding some of those secrets over her head. And so there's just a lot going on, but it's a really good Southern drama. It's in Alabama, and there's like, what is that called? Like a seafood boil where everybody gets together and they dump the food on the table. And there's like I don't know if it was like a country fair or country picnic. It was some kind of event where everybody was outdoors, and there was just a lot of Southern fun things in the book that I really enjoyed. But I also really enjoyed the characters. I liked Lane and Charlie. I especially loved little Noah. And there were some other characters in the book. Oh, and there was this aunt in the book. She was like, she's not Lane's, she's actually Charlie's aunt, but she works with Lane. She volunteers in Lane's restaurant. Every Friday, after they close down the restaurant, they serve neighbors in need, just anybody who needs a meal. And so they sort of open up as a free soup kitchen every Friday, and all the people in the community, mostly veterans. There's a lot of war veterans, Vietnam veterans in particular, who come for a free meal on Friday. And so that was kind of cool too. I liked the characterization of the veterans. I liked the way one veteran in particular has PTSD from Vietnam, and so he's really troubled, and Lane tries to understand him while some other people try to exploit him, and some other people are just very dismissive of him. But Lane, of course, reaches out to him, and he seems to really like Lane. And so I liked that. I liked the different aspects of the book, the Southern charm, the veterans. There was a lot about that book I recommend. There's this character named Birdie, and she works in the diner with Lane, and she is a really powerful witness for the Lord. So it had a strong Christian faith. Birdie does not directly quote scripture and say, like, in Romans, this happens. But she does say things like, for example, you need to renew your mind. She talks about the importance of renewing your mind, which we know as, Bible believing Christians, she's referring to Romans 12:2. But the book doesn't actually say, well, Romans 12:2 says, but Birdie references a lot of scriptures. And, because I love the word of God, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the character of Birdie, and I enjoyed knowing that even though it was Birdie talking, she was referencing God a lot in her character in the book. And so I really enjoyed that. Living Lies, free on Audible. I highly recommend it if you have an Audible account. And then the downside is you have to pay for the next book in the series, which I will probably do because I fell in love with the characters. Counted with the Stars, I reviewed in another video, so I won't belabor that, but that was my last book for March. Listened to it on the way home from my road trip on spring break. And Counted with the Stars by Connilyn Cossette is the story of Kyra, who is, she was wealthy and then she became a slave in Egypt. So she's an Egyptian who is in slavery and befriends a Hebrew girl. And so it was just really fascinating the way she views the Bible and, you know, Moses in the book of Exodus. And this Hebrew is trying to explain to Kyra about you know, God. And Kyra is very confused because she grew up worshiping many gods. And then, of course, the plagues happen. So that was a really good book. I definitely recommend that. Also free on Audible. And that one, the other books in the series, at least many of the ones that I saw, were free as well. So I loved that with my Audible. I'm really enjoying some free books on Audible this month. Okay. I think that is all 8, if I'm not mistaken. I've covered 8 books that I read in the month of March, which is pretty good considering that I'm also spending a lot of time writing a Bible study and working as an English teacher. So I guess professionally, I'm reading Hamlet and Macbeth. So I'm doing Macbeth with the 10th graders, Hamlet with the seniors. It's fun to end the year with Shakespeare because it's so engaging and it's just, you know, we're looking for that sunshine and we've got some energy. So that's really nice too. So that's what I read in March. Tell me in the comments below what you've read.